The incredible city of Amsterdam is one of those places that has a little something for everyone. Whether your idea of fun is getting drunk on a boat with bottomless cheese cubes, or darting from museum to museum until your sanity begs for mercy. And if you need help deciding what to do, this video will cover the best things to do in Amsterdam, alongside which overhyped activities to skip, because there's definitely quite a few tourist traps to avoid. Be sure to stick around until the end for a free map of all these activities and extra resources to help you plan your dream Amsterdam itinerary. In case you're new here, hi, I'm Christina from happytowander.com, and this channel is all about practical travel tips from someone who's been there, done that. So be sure to like and subscribe for more travel videos just like this one. And just a final money-saving tip before we begin: if you plan to do a lot of paid attractions during your time in Amsterdam, it may be worthwhile to get an iAmsterdam card, which includes most major attractions for one set price. But as usual, be sure to crunch the numbers and see if it's worth it for you. Now, let's move on to the list. Number 1, a canal cruise. If you're looking for the best, most Amsterdam-y thing to do during your visit, my friend, it's time to hurl yourself on a boat. Is it painfully cliched? Sure. But if there's only one touristy thing you treat yourself to in Amsterdam, a canal cruise is non-negotiable. Honestly, this is the best way to admire the city and get a quick overview of its famous picturesque canals. Plus, for bonus fun points, you can book really indulgent ones, like a bottom wine and cheese cruise, which I can vouch for, having done it myself recently. My tip, go at sunset. It is absolutely dreamy. Number 2, the red light district. Of course, I couldn't make a list of the most unique things to do in Amsterdam without including the red light district, so I'm gonna just get it out of the way. The red light district is an infamous and oft misunderstood part of Amsterdam, known the world over for legal prostitution, sex workers in windows, erotic performances, erotic shops, and even a whole museum about the history of prostitution. To be honest, I don't think this area is a particularly exciting place to visit unless you're really into tourist crowds, vape shops, dodging public urination, and the ever-present scent of Mary Jane. Or, actual prostitution, in which case, go wild. But hey, the red light district is truly one of those things that most visitors feel like they need to check off their list. So of course, go indulge your curiosity, but don't get your hopes up. I doubt a visit here will be the highlight of your trip. And of course, remember to remain respectful and not take any photos where you're not supposed to. Now, for something a little more my speed, let's move on to number 3, which is to gorge on stroopwafels. If there's one treat you need to try in Amsterdam, make sure it's this one. Stroopwafels are a very thin, cookie-like treat that are made by sandwiching 2 thin waffle wafers together with a caramelly filling in the middle. They originated in Gouda and are absolutely delicious, especially if eaten while warm. As a purist, I must implore you to try a plain one rather than one of the more aesthetic ones coated in chocolate and other toppings. A truly excellent stroopwafel will shine just fine on its own. And they don't need to be fancy or expensive either. I personally have a soft spot for the big multi-packs you buy from the supermarket, but don't let the foodies know I told you that. Moving on to number 4, which is to stuff your face with all manner of fried snacks. Amsterdam is known as a city of vice and indulgence, and if your indulgences come in the form of mysterious things deep fried to oblivion, I have great news. Dutch food is a true wonder, from chocolate sprinkles on toast for breakfast, to tiny bite-sized pancakes doused in sugar. There is no caloric limit to what these magically tall people consume. Some of the best treats though are the fried ones, and honestly, if you're looking for fun things to do in Amsterdam, I'd like to suggest a grand tour of the Netherlands' most prized snacks, including fries, usually served in a creamy sauce, bitterballen, which are small, round, deep-fried balls of a kind of beef stew that's been coated in breadcrumbs, croquettes, which are mainly a bigger version of bitterballen, but shaped like a sausage and then deep-fried, frikandel, which is sort of like a Dutch hot dog, although they don't look super appetizing, I can vouch that they're very delicious, and kaas soufflé. Think of a crumbed and deep-fried croquette, only flat, and it's filled with gooey cheese. Now let's move on to some of the more cultural things to do in Amsterdam, starting with number 5, getting your culture on at the Rijksmuseum, aka the National Museum of the Netherlands. The Rijksmuseum is to Amsterdam as the Louvre is to Paris. It's an astounding collection of 8,000 plus pieces representing centuries of Dutch art and history, all housed in a grand building that will give you neck pains from all the inevitable oohing and eyeing. But, and I say this with love, do not force yourself to go to the Rijksmuseum if you are not particularly interested in art and history. It's expensive, busy, and quite a time commitment, given the museum's massive size. If you only have a short time in Amsterdam, I might recommend stopping by to admire the building's exterior, then focusing on some of the other activities in this video. If you do decide to go though, here's my tip. Visit just before closing to avoid the crowds, and don't miss the hidden library. By the way, one of my favorite Amsterdam fun facts is that there's actually a branch of the Rijksmuseum at the Amsterdam Schiphol Airport, the first museum to be opened in an airport period, which is pretty special. And if you're more into modern art, then the nearby Stedelijk Museum may be more your speed. It's dedicated to modern art and design, with lots of bold and interesting installations. Located a nerdy skip away from the Rijksmuseum is another one of Amsterdam's most famous cultural must-dos, the Van Gogh Museum. Or, if you're pronouncing it the proper Dutch way, the Van Gogh Museum. This is one spot I'd recommend to anyone who is familiar with Van Gogh and is a fan of his work. After all, this is the world's largest collection of his works, with hundreds of paintings, drawings, and letters on display for your nosy perusal. While here, not only do you get to treat your eyeballs to some of the most famous and well-known paintings in history, they're all contextualized beautifully with tidbits about Van Gogh's life story. If you're easily moved like me, or perhaps just hormonal, also like me, then this Amsterdam must-do may make you a bit emotional. So bring tissues. Onwards to number 7, which is to stop by the world's largest street art museum. Straat is one of the coolest museums in Amsterdam, hands down. Located across the river and about a 10-minute free ferry ride from Amsterdam's central station in the NDSM-Werf neighborhood. Once you get there, look for the giant mural of Anne Frank and then head inside what was once a shipbuilding warehouse to see a massive museum dedicated to street art. This huge space is filled with equally large canvases, along with some quirky installation art and sculptures, including a truck hanging from the ceiling with murals on each side of it. The pieces on display here are truly breathtaking, and there are more than 160 artworks by over 150 artists from all around the world. There's even a cool interactive art piece in one of the side rooms, and the cafe looking out over everything is also a great spot for some refreshment. Onwards to number 8, which is a big one, and that is to visit a quirky museum. Listen, if I were to continue listing every single Amsterdam museum as a must-do, we would be here for weeks. And I'm sure you want to get back to your loved ones in a timely manner, so let's just summarize some of the funnier, weirder ones I think you might like. In Amsterdam, you'll find a truly eclectic selection of museums, which is why sometimes buying an iAmsterdam card can be really great because you can see some of the smaller ones and feel like it's a better deal because it's all included. For instance, in the past, I visited the Pipe Museum, but in addition to that, there's also the Upside Down Museum, the Cat Cabinet Museum, which is dedicated to art depicting cats, and also Our House, which is an immersive museum experience dedicated to dance music with exhibitions on the history of dance music along with installations, immersive shows, and DJ curated exhibits. Of course, besides visiting museums, one of the top must-dos in Amsterdam is to simply photograph your heart out. Amsterdam is one of the most aesthetically pleasing cities in Europe, with narrow crooked houses squished against each other, lining picturesque canals as an endless stream of bikes glide over bridges like some kind of utopian postcard. Honestly, one of the best things to do in Amsterdam is just stare at everything. And drool. I'd be happy spending days doing just that. But if you're wondering where exactly to drool, here are some can't-miss photo spots. First, Damrak. Just outside of Amsterdam Central Station is an avenue known as Damrak. Here is where you can get a shot of the famous dancing houses in Amsterdam that you've no doubt seen many times before. A set of crooked canal houses just behind some water where lots of canal tours depart. Close by, you'll find Dam Square, which is Amsterdam's most famous square. Be sure to visit the inside of the Royal Palace if you can, but otherwise beware of pigeons here. They are awful. Another beautiful photo spot is the neighborhood known as Jordaan, to the west of the city center. This area is known as one of Amsterdam's prettiest neighborhoods, where you'll find many cute cafes, restaurants, boutique shops, hotels, and homes lining canals. Finally, there's the Skinny Bridge. Amsterdam is known for its many bridges crossing all its canals, but the Skinny Bridge might be the most famous. This picturesque wooden bridge was featured in the 1971 James Bond film Diamonds Are Forever, and at night it's lit up by tons of little light bulbs, making it very cute and romantic. Now let's move on to number 10. Of course, it wouldn't be a list of unique Amsterdam experiences without mentioning the famous Anne Frank house, by far one of the most solemn but important places that the city contains. Anne Frank was a German-born Jewish girl who was living in Amsterdam when the Nazis invaded, and subsequently spent 2 years hiding with her family in tiny concealed rooms at the place where her father had worked. She kept a diary during this period, which was published after her death by her father, and it is now one of the most well-known books in the world. And when you're in Amsterdam, if this piece of history interests you, you can actually visit the building and rooms where Anne spent those years of her life in hiding. This was by far one of the most memorable stops on my first visit to Amsterdam, and now, almost a decade later, I can still remember the way it felt to walk within those same 4 walls where Anne penned her famous diary over 70 years ago. This is definitely a tough but important place to visit. Moving on to number 11, another must-do in Amsterdam is a bumble through de negen straatjes, the 9 streets. I'm sure I butchered that name in Dutch, but let's just go with it. This area is located within the Jordaan, right in the middle of the UNESCO World Heritage Site section of canals. Many of the businesses here are located in original canal houses, making it infinitely charming to explore. Plus, some of the city's quirky museums can be found here as well, so be sure to allocate some time to exploring this neighborhood. It's absolutely stunning. Now, the next thing to do in Amsterdam is to enjoy an amazing view. There's no shortage of places for a view in the city, which is why one of my favorite things to do in Amsterdam is simply hunt for the best one. Some that I can highly recommend, including the rooftop terrace at the Nemo Science Museum, the rooftop view from the Oba Library, or if you're looking for paid views, there's also the Edam Lookout, or the Doubletree by Hilton Sky Lounge, which is a gorgeous rooftop bar that's perfect for enjoying a cocktail and some bar snacks while watching the sunset. Now, another fun thing to do in Amsterdam is visiting the world's only floating flower market. On Amsterdam's single canal is a stretch of flower stalls that are all located on floating platforms on the water. This flower market is the only floating market of its kind, and a great spot to buy some fresh tulips, tulip bulbs, or other tulip-themed souvenirs. I'll be honest, this is a very touristy spot, and for the most part, you don't even realize you're standing on a floating market at all. Nonetheless, it's a nice spot to quickly browse, especially if you're aggressively into tulips. Now onto number 14, which is a hidden gem of Amsterdam, and that's to find some peace at the Begijnhof. Hofs, or hofjes, which means courtyards, are basically little gardens surrounded by homes, and the Begijnhof is one of the most beautiful in Amsterdam, and the most famous. Constructed in the Middle Ages, it's actually located below modern street level, so you go through a little archway and down into a garden that's hidden from the surrounding busy streets. There are 2 churches located within this inner garden/courtyard area, and it's a beautiful place to escape the crowds for a little moment. Now onwards to number 15, which is to snoop around a canal house. The ultra-slim canal houses of Amsterdam are one of the city's signature elements, but do you know what's better than gawking at them from afar? Getting to step inside one. Of course, there's a few ways to do that, including staying in a canal house hotel, visiting a museum inside a canal house, or booking a restaurant or bar housed inside one. Regardless of how you do it, make sure you take some time to explore one of these canal houses, because there is nothing more quintessentially Amsterdam. And speaking of quintessentially Amsterdam, number 16 is to snoop around a houseboat. Another distinctive thing that makes Amsterdam Amsterdam is its multitude of houseboats. Again, there are a few ways to check out the inside of one, starting with staying in a houseboat yourself, or visiting the Houseboat Museum. This is basically just a houseboat that you can go into to have a look around, and while it's not too expensive, it's also very small, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend it unless you're very, very nosy. Now, if you're looking to get a bit more off the beaten path in Amsterdam, I can highly recommend exploring the city's Jewish quarter. Today, there are a number of historically important preserved buildings here to explore. The Jewish Cultural Quarter is an organization that manages all the places that you can visit here and is dedicated to preserving Jewish culture in Amsterdam. One ticket will gain you access to the Portuguese synagogue, the Jewish Historical Museum, and a few other attractions in the area. This is definitely a very unique and interesting area to explore, so be sure to put it on your list. Another cool neighborhood to explore in Amsterdam is De Pijp. This is a cool neighborhood in the old south of the city, which used to be a working class area, but is now a multicultural and bohemian zone, brimming with cafes, restaurants, coffee shops, and bars. It's also home to the famous Albert Markt, the largest daily market in Europe, which takes place Monday to Saturday from 9:30 until 5. and also an excellent spot to try some fresh local treats like street waffles, as well as affordable groceries, clothing, and more. In the complete opposite direction is another great neighborhood worth checking out, Amsterdam Noord, which is directly across the river from Amsterdam Central Station. Luckily, you can reach it in about 3 minutes through a free ferry, and from there you can explore a bunch of attractions including the Toren, the Amsterdam Tower, the Eiffel Museum, and This is Holland. At the Amsterdam Tower, you'll find a really cool viewing platform, a thrilling swing ride, as well as a swanky revolving restaurant, a cool cocktail bar, hotel, underground nightclub, and a fun burger joint. This is Holland is a really fun 5D flight simulator experience where you get to virtually visit plenty of gorgeous places in the Netherlands through one single ticket. The Eiffel Museum is also interesting if you're interested in the history of film. A bit further up the river through a different ferry is the NDSM Vef neighborhood. This is where the street art museum I mentioned earlier is located, but there are a number of artsy attractions and hip places here to check out as well. So if you're looking for something a bit more offbeat to do in Amsterdam, be sure to pay this neighborhood a visit, especially when there's cool events taking place, from dance music festivals to the largest flea market in Europe. And if you're looking for a very unique and interesting place to visit in Amsterdam, be sure to visit this museum, whose pronunciation I have butchered too many times to attempt again. This museum is home to a fascinating secret church, one of many clandestine churches that popped up in the 17th century when Catholics weren't able to worship in public anymore. Built into the top floors of a canal house, the secret attic church is one of the most interesting secrets of Amsterdam. Although these days the secret's pretty much out and there are a lot of visitors. But this audio guide tour takes you through the many floors, offering fascinating insight on the history of the house and what life was like back in the day. Really, this is one of the few museums where I listen to every number on the audio guide. It's that good, and I highly recommend it. The next Amsterdam must-do is to get cozy in a brown cafe. Brown cafes are informal neighborhood spots that serve beer and usually simple traditional meals. They're known as brown cafes because of their typically brown interiors, with lots of dark brown wood and dim lighting. I love visiting brown bars in the Netherlands because they're very homey, very cozy and relaxed, and a great place to chill after a very long day of sightseeing. Another Amsterdam activity to add to your list is visiting the city's largest park. Amsterdam has no shortage of lovely green spaces, but Vondelpark is the largest and most popular. This park was opened in 1865 and covers 120 acres of space, not far from the Museumplein. It's filled with biking and walking paths, as well as wide open spaces for picnics. In summer, it can get very busy here, but any time of year is nice to explore the different sections, and it's especially good for dog spotting. Another must-do that I feel like most guides don't tell you about is enjoying Amsterdam's secret garden days. Granted, this is a very limited time event, but I happened to be in Amsterdam one year for this, and I have to include it because it's so cool. If you happen to be visiting in the summer, there is a 3-day period in Amsterdam known as the Open Garden Days, where many of the city's secret gardens are made accessible to the public. That's right, more than 30 different canal houses open up their gardens for 3 days each June, usually the third weekend of the month. And if you purchase a ticket, that gives you free rein to visit all these different houses. Honestly, if you've ever wondered what the canal houses look like on the inside or what their gardens look like, this is a super cool event to attend. Lastly, it has to be said, for better or for worse, Amsterdam is a city that has tons of made-for-tourist activities that most locals would sneer at as they smugly glide past on their bikes. But hey, my philosophy with travel is that so long as you're enjoying it, it's not a tourist trap. So with that in mind, if you're still looking for fun things to do in Amsterdam, here are some final touristy Amsterdam activities you might find interesting. For instance, you can hop on a beer bike tour, you can indulge in the Heineken experience and tour the original Heineken brewery. Or if you're traveling with kids and looking for something to do on a rainy day, there's also the touristy classics like Madame Tussauds, Ripley's Believe It or Not, and the Amsterdam Dungeon. That said, I wouldn't necessarily recommend these activities because there are way better things to be doing, but if it appeals to you, now you know. Oh, and a final note, unless you're a very competent cyclist, I wouldn't do a bike tour here. Amsterdam cyclists are ruthless and have no patience for lost tourists. Now, all that said, I recognize that this video is barely scraping the surface. Amsterdam is an amazing city with more to do than I could ever cover in one video, and tons of amazing day trips too. But let me know in the comments what activities you would add, and be sure to like and subscribe for more practical travel videos just like this one. I'll see you guys next week. Bye!